Hey guys, Ben Paynes here, and today we're back once again for another video, and this time we are at Buckmore Park, the home of British karting, and I'm really excited for this one. I can't wait to get involved. We're here for the fourth round of the Club 73 Weekend Series. This is our third time out. Obviously we didn't do the first round, so I'm really excited to get involved. It's an absolutely beautiful day today, probably one of the hottest days of the year, so definitely going to be no chance of any wet racing at all. It's just going to be really dry, really grippy, and I can't wait to get involved. Now, the track, on looking onto it, obviously I've just signed in, it looks a lot steeper compared to how it looks on camera. Obviously I've watched a lot of videos from this track trying to get my bearings, and obviously with only 5-minute practice and a straight 30-minute race, much like the format of this usually is, there's not going to be a lot of time to pick it up. So I've watched a lot of videos, I mentioned, and the track looks like an absolute roller coaster, so I can't wait to get involved. And before we jump into the footage, I would just like to say, if you are new here, could you please hit subscribe down below, as it really does help me out. And if you do enjoy this video, could you also hit the like button as well. But in the meantime, let's jump straight into practice and see how we get on today. Okay then guys, so we're jumping straight into practice here at Buckmore Park, a track that I've always wanted to go to as soon as I discovered karting in the UK. Really, this is pretty much a dream come true for me. Really was looking forward to this one. Obviously I've seen so many videos online of different people racing here in Club 100, rental karting, so I was really excited to get involved and just give it my best shot. So we're coming around here on our out lap. We were sent out in groups of 2, so I was sent out ahead of one of the drivers next to me, my teammate Arthur Langley, who was next to me, and I just really wanted to try and get to grips with the track as quickly as I could. Now, I haven't seen too many videos of rental cars going around here, so I was trying to take some lines, and obviously you can see immediately that we're not using the head cam in this one. We've instead been subjected to sort of the bonnet cam of the car, if you will. So we're trying to go around and get some decent temperature into the tyres here. So we're just coming across the line on our first lap, obviously being a lot slower from a standing start. We come across the line with a 54.604. Now, I knew that a pretty decent lap was a low 50 to high or mid 49-second lap, so that's sort of what we're aiming for here. Obviously, never being here, once again, we only have 5 minutes to pick up the track as quickly as we can. So we were told as well that you're allowed to use as much as the curbing as you want, just not a lot of the red strip bit on the outside of the track. So you can see immediately I'm trying to find my bearings, go over as many curves as I can. And what you can't see on the camera, and you can see sort of on the car at the bottom, is how bumpy the track was. Obviously the camera, my camera is quite good, it has hyper smooth on, which really doesn't convey the amount of vibrations and bouncing that was going on, but the car underneath will tell a different story. So you'll see as we're going around how much the car was actually bouncing around on the track. So we come across the line on our first lap of 51.648, which I thought was a pretty decent benchmark, and now we were willing to go ahead and try and improve on that as we carry on round in our 5 minutes. Now, there was a driver up ahead of me here in kart number 20. Obviously, whatever kart number you have is where you'll be starting, so I was given kart number 13 in this one, and obviously due to the positions in the championship, people that are higher up will start further back. There were 20 people on the grid, so the person in kart number 20 was the person highest up in terms of points at this point in this final. Obviously we're in the C final, which was the second race of the day. So I knew that if I could keep up with the person in kart number 20, they must be a pretty decent driver. So I was using them as a bit of a marker to try and catch up to. So we come around on our second lap there of practice with 51.019, which is obviously a 4/10 improvement already. Trying to find the limit of the car and also the track. So trying to go a little bit wider on the runoffs and maintain the momentum. Now, very dry day, it was a really nice day, and it was perfect for racing. You can see the sun is pretty much setting over the tree line behind on the left hand side, which was really nice. It was actually such a nice day to be able to go out and race in the warm weather, and you can see again just taking a lot more curbing this time, and it's really allowing me to catch up with the driver in front of me. Obviously what I didn't realise pretty quickly is the more aggressive you turn the wheel on the car, which obviously you can't see, the more the tyres began to bounce and you got a bit of understeer. So I understood pretty quickly that you had to be quite smooth as the steering was quite sensitive. So as I was adjusting to this, my times began to improve bit by bit. So we're down to a 40.771 already after 3 laps. So we're getting right onto the pace of where we need to be already, and you can see how much time we've actually managed to improve and catch up to the person ahead of me. And again, you see he's losing a little bit of traction there going through the double hairpin section there, and this has allowed me to really tag along behind him now at this point. And obviously when you're in behind the driver this close, you are going to get a little bit of tow, as it was a little bit of a windy day, and obviously with the amount of incline, which I didn't understand, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there was actually a lot more incline to the track than I thought was actually conveyed on camera when I've watched before. So this part of the track here was actually quite a steep incline coming up to the start finish line. So I was really enjoying that element, and obviously tucking in behind the driver ahead, we come across the line with a 50.502, so we're able to already gain 9/10 on our original fastest time. You can see really tucking up behind the driver here. Didn't really want to go sending it down the inside in practice, but if the door was going to get left open, then I was going to go for it. And you can see there he moves to the right a little bit too much, and I thought that I would give myself a little bit more clean air and just slip up the inside and try and pull away as much as I can. So we're coming through the downhill section here, through the S's here, taking as much curve as I can, trying to stick to the left hand side to then rotate the car into the right and maintain as much momentum as I can. You don't want to go too far onto the rumble strips there on the left hand side, because it really does bounce you around and you lose a lot of momentum. Now going through Garda as well on the hairpin, I did understand at this point in the practice session that I was using a bit too much steering angle, and this was causing me to lose a lot of momentum coming down to the start finish straight, which you can see there has been reflected in our last lap being a 50.892. So you really want to get a good X out of Garda, because if you don't, you're going to be compromised the whole way down the start finish straight. And you can see the marshal there on the right hand side in the car. I knew that this was coming up to be one of the last laps, so I knew practice was coming to an end. So I was trying to push the car a little bit more, trying to find a few tenths on my fastest time so far, obviously being a 50.5. I knew that I'd have to be a bit quicker than this if I wanted to be contending with anyone in the race. So again, see, taking a bit more of a different line here, going a little bit narrower to try and get a better exit coming up the hill, and again just trying to take it as close as I can to Garda on the curb without actually running over it too much. I don't really carry enough speed coming out of the corner, and obviously that loses me a bit of time, but we do come across the line here at the end of practice with a 50.649, which is really consistent with my fastest lap, but unfortunately we didn't quite beat it. So my fastest lap was a 50.502, which I was pretty happy with, and now we are going to jump into the race. Obviously we're starting in 13th, so let's see how many places we're able to get, and let's see if we can get a good result this time out. Lining up on the grid then in 13th place, we're about to get underway to the green light, and here we go, we're in 13th. As you can see, the kart numbers dictate our position. We get a really good start here up on the driver in kart number 11, Vito. We're able to go around the outside of him there and take an early position up into 12th, which I was really happy with. You can see here that an absolute melee of carnage is about to ensue. We go down the inside of another driver there up into 11th, which I was really happy with. So 2 drivers in 2 corners. You couldn't really ask for a much better start than that. You can see another driver here go a little bit slower through the double hairpin section, and you can also see Louis Clark in number 12 here going quite well. So we're up into 10th now as we go down the inside there. He had a little bit of a bump with Louis, and this is where a little bit more of the first lap carnage begins to unfold. We have 4 drivers up ahead in a 1 centimetre cubed area, and I was getting a driver up my inside, and unfortunately I just completely got into the melee as well, and that caused me to just go into the back of one of the drivers up ahead. So unfortunately all the positions I'd gained had now led to me losing them +2. So we're down into 15th place. I'd like to apologise to the driver there that did end up getting taken out. I didn't mean it at all. It wasn't malicious. It's just the way it goes. I've had it happen, so we can't really focus on that. We had to just keep our head down and carry on with the race. So we've gone from 10th now down into 15th once again. I'm looking for the inside here on the driver in car number 14, but instead having to back out, as didn't really want to go side by side into that section of the track. It's always going to be messy. So coming down the hill once again, I'm trying to compose myself here and set up a move going into the last few corners. So we get a good run here going up the hill. I decide to look down the inside here into Garda, slip the car the inside, but unfortunately I didn't quite have the momentum, so that caused me to stay down in 15th place. And all this time battling back here has just caused me to lose time to some of the drivers up ahead. You can see Louis in the pink helmet, he's now at the front of this pack that's sort of formed, so almost getting taken out there by weaving all over the place. The driver goes quite narrow, and this allows me to just slide up the inside with a bit of a cutback, and now we're up into 14th place once again with our head down, looking to make some more positions back up. Obviously we started in 13th, and we don't want to finish any lower than we start, especially as I think I had some pretty decent pace to battle with the top guys in this one. So coming down the back section of the track here, you can see really close up to this gaggle of karts overhead. There's a huge train going down the hill through the S section. I look for a move up the inside here, but decide against it. The driver comes across quite well and covers it off, so we're still down in 14th place here, tagging along behind. I got a little bit defensive there as the driver behind was looking to make a move on me. Obviously without the head cam you can't really see me looking around, and you can see I go quite wide there, so we're just trying to focus on getting our head down, tagging onto the back of here and avoiding any more silly mistakes. So here we are then, just trying to take a bit of a slower entry into the corner and getting a way better exit. You can see here the speed I'm able to carry. We're going 4 wide almost into the corner, a little bit of bump in here and I go a little bit wide, and this allows 2 drivers up my inside. I managed to gain a position though, but then unfortunately I lose it back again, so we're down into 16th once again, back up into 15th, and we're back basically where we were a minute ago. So all this change in position is absolutely confusing me with the position changer as well. So here we are then coming back down into the bottom part of the track here, just cutting up the inside there across the curb and gaining the position, able to cover off well, so we're back up into 14th once again, which I was really happy with. Going a little bit wide there, and this allows Sean Russell down the inside, so I'm back down to 15th once again, and we're just really getting stuck in, having a great time here, having a lot of fun racing. Obviously we'd rather be doing this a little bit further out, we don't want to be this far down, so we're just going to try and focus on making some clean overtakes and getting through this absolute monstrosity of carnage going on up ahead. So you can see 3 drivers going really wide here, try and stick to the outside line, looking for a switchback here, up into 14th place, going around the outside here, trying to push Sean through to try and allow him to get a position up. He does, and now we're still stuck down in 14th. We weren't able to have the overspeed to follow him through, so you can see how close we are here with the camera right at the front of the car. You pretty much reach out and grab the person ahead. I was thinking of a move down the inside, but he sticks to the inside line there, and instead I get a better run going up the hill once again into Garda, and this time I'm able to make it stick up into 13th place. So we gained another position and back to the position where we started. So now it's all about making up as many places as we can throughout the rest of the race. Obviously we had a bit of a poor start. We had a good start around the first half of the lap, but unfortunately the second half just ended in misery for myself. So once again, just trying to slide the car in, trying to keep the momentum up so I can catch up to these little group of karts that are up ahead. See the other 2 drivers ahead of me are battling with each other quite hard, and this is allowing me to really close up and now pretty much in touching distance of the driver ahead. We have about 5 karts wide here, and then a driver tries to go up the inside and absolutely takes himself out, almost takes me off the track. I had to sort of swerve, and luckily I wasn't actually collected in that one. I was a little bit, but it wasn't awful. So we're still in 13th place here, but we have lost a little bit of time from that due to the driver spinning into me. So we're still down in 13th place, trying to get our head down to catch up to the driver in kart number 2. So at this point you can't see it, but I'm absolutely abusing my human DRS, deploying it all the way up the hill, trying to gain as much time from the wind resistance as I can, and you can see it's really helped through the first corner. I was able to take a better line through the first 2 corners, and that has meant that I've really closed up to Jake Lucas in kart number 2, and now I'm looking to go round the outside here by carrying my momentum, and I actually do in fact make it stick around the outside. A little bit of contact there from him on the inside, but we're able to make it stick. So now we're up into 12th position. We've made a place up in this race so far, and now we're looking to gain some more. The pack's a little bit more spread out now, there's not as much carnage occurring, so we just need to get our head down and put in some good laps. Obviously our fastest lap so far, 51.497, which isn't quite on the pace of where we want to be. Obviously we are about a second off where we were in practice, so I knew that we needed to get some clean air under our belt and get some good laps in. But we do come across the line on this lap with a 50.661, which is more akin to where we want to be. And you can see here, going down the inside of the driver in 11th position, I do actually slide into him there, so I was trying to let him back through, but there were some more drivers all over me. I didn't think it was a very fair move, so I do actually let him back through later on in the lap, because it was a bit of a rough move and I don't really think it was justified. It wasn't really penalised, but I thought in my head, in the spirit of fair racing, I would let the driver back through. So we're still in 11th here, and as we come around the bottom section of the track into Garda, I do run myself a little bit wide here to allow the driver up the inside. So he goes back through into 11th position and we're back down into 12th again. So trying to get my head down and make a clean overtake on him once more, rather than making a little bit of a clumsy one. And in the spirit of fair play, we just want to get some good overtakes in. We don't want to be a dirty driver. So we're down in 12th once again. We're in a little bit of a train now at this point. I think there was 3 or 4 karts in this one. Obviously there's 2 up ahead of me and I think there was 1 behind. And you can see us sliding through the corner there, trying to get the kart rotated nice and early so we can get the power down as early as we can to get a better exit. You can see I'm doing it again here, and now I'm pretty much pushing Sean through the S section of the track here and coming down the hill. I was pretty much bumper to bumper with him. Don't want to get too close, don't want to cause a bit of an incident, so I decided to back off a little bit to try and get a better run coming into Garda once again, trying to look for an overtake there, or maybe even as we're coming up past the start finish straight. So we get a nice clean exit out of Garda here, and we're actually on the tail once again of the 2 drivers up ahead, and we're really reeling them in now, deploying some human DRS once again to try and get closer and closer, using all the curb on the right hand side there to try and minimise the track length. And we come across the line with our fastest lap of the race so far, and our fastest lap of the day so far being a 50.362. so here we are then, trying to go down the inside. I sort of brake a little bit too early there in anticipation. Obviously I didn't want to do the same thing that I did previously and sort of slide into him, so maybe that was a bit on me. I braked a little bit too early, a little bit too shallow, and that caused me to not be able to stick the kart down the inside. You see Sean trying to make his way past. I didn't expect him to slow down there, so I give him a little bit of a bump draft down the hill, and that caused us to lose a little bit more momentum to the 2 drivers up ahead. So again, we're just trying to take some nice clean lines, but you can see that I've really got that one wrong and lost 2 or 3 kart lengths to the 2 drivers up ahead. So I really had to get my head back down again and try and catch up to the best of my ability. So again, using all of the track on the right hand side to try and keep it in as straight a line as possible to maintain the momentum coming into the start finish straight. But obviously you can see with that contact and a few mistakes, we're down on our last lap being a 51.103, and I knew in my head at this point I could get past these 2 drivers ahead. It was all about a matter of when and where. So we're just really once again just trying to take a nice wide line, wide entrance to try and maintain the speed through the corner. Obviously you want to maintain as much momentum as possible. You don't want the kart to bog down or slide, as every time you do this it just makes you lose a lot of momentum and the kart just doesn't feel too good. So you can see again, trying to use as much curbing as possible. Sean goes for a move down the inside here, backs out of it a little bit there, and that causes me to gain all the pace back up and really tag onto the back of them once again. So obviously by being this close, I'm going to have the less wind resistance on myself, less drag, so I'm really able to tuck in behind and gain a bit more speed coming up the hill. So we're going across the start finish line again with a 50.395, which is only 300ths off our fastest lap so far. So being quite consistent now in lap times, we're sort of settling into a rhythm. I was beginning to understand the track a little bit more and understand the karts. Obviously these are Sodi karts, I've been using Biz karts quite a lot recently, so this was a nice change of sort of kart usage. So you can see Sean there is able to make the overtake done, goes up the inside. I try and look up the inside going down the hill, but I decide against it, and this is why, because it's just causes all sorts of carnage to happen. And obviously as Sean was compromised, I decided to slip down the inside and gain a position for myself on him. So we're up into 11th place now, go a little bit more defensive here, and I decided to tap my helmet to say, look, if we can work together here, we'll both be able to make a pass on the driver in kart number 9. So obviously I wanted to try and get as far up the field as I can. We gained 2 positions so far on our starting position. Obviously if we didn't lose 5, it would have been 7 hopefully, but we can always say what if. There's always what ifs when you're watching my videos, because we always seem to get a little bit of poor luck. But again, you can see we just got to make the most of a bad situation. So we're coming up behind kart number 9 now, clearly taking some better traction through these sections. It's really allowed me to become in touch and distance once again with the back of his kart. So we're coming into the downhill section of the track again. I look up the inside here, going into the S's. I try and stick my nose up the inside, but didn't quite manage to make it work, so I had to back out a little bit there, and obviously that loses me a little bit of momentum, throw myself offline. You can see he goes all over the rumble strips down the left hand side, and that obviously loses you a lot of momentum as well. So you can see he goes really wide here through Garda. I think I pretty much followed him through the corner there, and that caused me to go a little bit wide, so I compromised myself. You can see how much time I'm able to gain back coming down the start finish straight. I stick my nose up the inside here looking for an overtake, but he does manage to close it off just in time, able to get across without making contact. But as I was able to get a better run through the first corner, I was able to slip the car up the inside here and sort of force him to the left hand side of the track so that he couldn't re-overtake me going into the third corner of the track, the second hairpin. So now we're up into 10th place, really happy with this, made 3 positions so far, and now we're looking to catch up with the driver in kart number 14, who I thought his kart looked a little bit slow. I didn't know if he'd overcooked the tyres by turning a little bit too aggressively, as I've mentioned earlier. When you do that, the tyres overheat and they just create a lot of bouncing and understeer. So you can see as we come up the hill here how much time I'm able to gain on him as we come up to the start finish straight. You can see reeling him in a lot, and I don't know how I was reeling him in so much, but I thought that was just a free position. So we're up into 9th place now, and I was really happy with that. We were now in a bit of clean air to try and get our head down and catch up with the driver in 8th position. You can see has made a bit of a gap. Now unfortunately I left the door open there a little bit, and this allows the driver in kart number 14 to slip down the inside once again. I try and push them a little bit narrower so I can try and go for a little bit of a switchback, but unfortunately he covers it off quite well. I wasn't quite able to get the rotation that I wanted, so instead here we're pretty much pushing them down the straight. We are bumper to bumper at this point. You can't see it because we are floating with this camera angle, but we were pretty much bumper to bumper down there, and instead I decided to back off here just because I knew that from the last lap I knew his kart was going to have a really bad exit out of Garda and coming up the hill, so I knew that I'd be able to overtake him once again going into the start finish straight. You can see immediately how much speed we're able to have. We go for really an audacious move into Cafe Curve here, and we're actually able to make it stick up the inside over the curbs into 9th position once again. So you can see our last lap, obviously through that battling, we're down to the 51.4 second lap times again, so we're about a second off our fastest lap so far. But now with a bit of clean air and a target up ahead in 8th position, we just had to get our head down and put some good lap times in. Now at this point I knew that the other drivers up ahead of me in about 7th upwards were about 10 seconds up the road at this point. Obviously due to the first lap incidents and also the battling that I've been doing, I had been held back a bit, so it was all about damage limitation at this point, trying to catch up as much as I could without compromising myself to the drivers behind. And I realised pretty quickly as I came up the hill here, you obviously can't see me looking over my shoulder, but through Cafe Curve I was having a little look, and I gained so much time on the driver behind that I felt that I was sort of safe to just sort of plough forward and put in some clean and consistent laps on the racing line. You can see our last lap, obviously due to the clean air, is our fastest lap so far, 50.309, and this was only going to improve as the next few laps rolled in. So you can see taking a nice wide line, missing the first apex, hitting the second one, and using the runoff on the right hand side of the track to try and maintain as much momentum as possible, using the curb in here, which I wasn't doing earlier in the race, to try and minimise track length once again, and really trying to get as far on the left hand side as I can to get a better turn into the right hand corner here. So you can see really trying to preserve momentum, and it's really helping me in terms of lap times here by just being able to catch up with the driver ahead. Now I didn't realise at this point, but I was actually half a second a lap quicker than Vito, who was up ahead of me in 8th position. So I knew that I was going to reel him in. We have about 15 minutes left in this one, but we do come across the line on this lap with a 50.232. So you can see the lap times are beginning to slowly but surely come down, which I was really happy with. I was aiming to get into the 49s if I could, or at least get into the 50 deads, which we'll find out if we manage to do it by the end of the video. But obviously with Vito as a target up ahead of me, I just wanted to try and gain as much time as I could. So again, you can see trying to use as much of the curbing as possible. I wasn't trying to use too much of the curbing on the right hand side there, as it just did off balance the kart a little bit, and it just caused the kart to be a little bit unstable. So I was trying to avoid that one a little bit. I didn't want to be unsafe. I'd rather go for a little bit of a slower lap time and be a bit cleaner. So you can see again, using the curb on the left hand side to get the kart rotated, coming in a straight line up here to try and get as much momentum as I can to come across the start finish line on this lap. We're 50.214, so you can see being really consistent now, a nice couple of laps within a tenth of each other, and I'm being really smooth with the kart. So I was really happy with this, and I knew that I was only going to get faster with the more laps that I was going to be able to churn out. Obviously the other drivers in this one have all done Buckmore Park many times before, and as this is my first time here, I knew that I was always going to be up against it. So the fact I was able to even make any moves, I was really happy with this. So really, once again, trying to take a nice tight line. You can see Vito going really wide there into that corner. It's losing him a lot of time, and is able to allow me to catch up to him quite a lot here, so I'm able to really get on the power a lot earlier than him and maintain the momentum of my car. And again, you can see I'm trying to learn a little bit here from him. Obviously he's been to Buckmore quite a few times, so any extra lines or extra little tips I could take, I was going to use them. So you can see him come across the line there, 10th quicker again, 50.127, getting even closer to those low 50-second laps. And you can see we're getting even closer to the driver in 8th position, getting really clean now, getting really comfortable in the car. I felt really good at this point, and I was just in the zone really at this point. I felt that everything was flowing quite well, and I was really becoming accustomed to the track. So you can see here he uses a lot of the curb on the right hand side here, and I was actually able to start to use that a lot more as well. I decided not to follow that line, as I thought that the line I was taking was a lot quicker, and you can see how much it's actually allowing me to reel him in. And he using a lot of the outside curbing now on the left hand side, which I wasn't doing earlier in the race, and this obviously allows you to take a faster line through Garda. So I started to do that as well, and it allowed for even faster lap time. So we come across a come across the start finish straight on this one with a 50.212, so a little bit slower on that one, obviously making a little bit of an error, I guess, with the back end of the car, and that's obviously caused me to lose a little bit of momentum through the corners. But it doesn't matter, because we really have closed up to the back of the driver in car number 11 now at this point. So I knew if I got into a certain range, I was going to have a little bit of slipstream on the driver ahead, so I just wanted to try and get as close as I could before the start finish straight. You can see then through the S section there how much time I'm able to gain here, and into Garda once again, trying to get as close as possible and try and get on the power as early as possible to get a good run coming up the hill. So you can see then on the right hand side, trying to use as much as the track limits as I can and the curbing on the left hand side, and this has really allowed me to close up into slipstream range. We come across the line on this lap that has just gone with our fastest lap of the race so far, and that was actually my fastest lap of the day, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But we come across the line with a 50.040. The driver goes to the right hand side here and pretty much lets me pass up the inside. We had a little chat after, and he did mention to me that he didn't feel that he was racing me really, so he sort of let me pass and then started to use the toe behind me, and as you can see, there's absolutely no drivers ahead of me at this point. So I knew with about 10 to 12 minutes left in the race, there was literally going to be no chance of me catching anyone else. I think everyone else was about 15 seconds up the road at this point. So this is the part of the video where we just sort of succumbed to 8th position really. There wasn't too much going on, it was just sort of me doing a fair few laps in this position. I wasn't able to gain much time, I wasn't really under threat from behind either, so we do skip ahead at this point in the video to the very last lap of the race. As you can see, final lap on the left hand side, and I wasn't really able to improve on my time because a lot of the drivers decided through the middle of the section of the track to keep hitting the barriers, and this meant that the marshals had to keep coming out on the track to move the barriers back. I'm not sure why it kept happening, but this just led to yellow flags through the middle sector on at least half of the laps into the later stages of the race. And obviously with no real reference up ahead of me, I didn't really have anything to push for. I had a nice suitable gap to the driver behind me, and therefore I just sort of stayed in 8th position for the rest of the race. So we're coming into the closing stages of the race now, through the last few corners, coming into Garda. Obviously we're not going to improve on our fastest lap, but we really have had a fun time here at Buckmore Park. I really enjoyed it, and it was a lot of fun. So we're coming up the hill for the last time once again. You can see Alfie Richardson, who I came along with, he racing the D final, going absolutely mental. I kept loving seeing him supporting from the sides. But we do come round to 8th position. I give a little fist bump to Vito, who finished behind me. Obviously we did work together to sort of escape the drivers behind, and we did finish in 8th and 9th. So I was really happy with this result, obviously making 5 positions. There could have been a few more, but I was really happy with the solid positions and points. So in the meantime, let's jump into some post-race thoughts. Okay then guys, so we've just finished off our C final race. We started off in 13th position. We dropped down to around 15th due to some first lap shenanigans. There was a lot going on, including from myself, so it was just all sorts of carnage just occurring. So obviously I think we dropped down to about 15th, and we were able to claw our way back to 8th, which I was quite happy with. Obviously the people ahead of us, they were about 15 seconds down the road, so there was absolutely no chance in hell that I was going to catch up with them. Unfortunately, about 3 people in our category finished ahead of us, so we've lost out a little bit there. But in the meantime, I am going to leave the results for the overall championship standings and also the class standings up on the screen now. So if you can find me, good luck, because it's nice and small, I realise this. However, I did really enjoy the track. It was a lot of fun. My first time here, I managed to come across with a 50-second lap, which I was really happy with. I didn't really expect to be quick as some of the other guys. Obviously, they've been here a lot, so to be that close on pace, I was quite happy with. Our next round is in fact at Ello Park, so this is in about a month. That is the 5th round of the Club 73 Weekend Series. We don't have any SRK for a little while as we have a month break, so stay tuned for that. Obviously we have the BIKC coming up, so in the next month we'll be doing a little bit of qualifying down at Bristol to see if we can get in anywhere in the middleweight category there. So this does in fact bring us to the end of the video, so I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, can you please leave a like on it, as I really do appreciate it. And if you did enjoy the content and you hope to see more, also hit the subscribe button, as it really does help me out. However, this does bring us to the end of the video, so I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.